sorts of things we're going to go through. We're going to talk in a bit more detail about what exactly seasonal affective disorder is. It's probably something you've heard about. I think when the term was first used, it was often used as a bit of a joke, that people were feeling sad during the winter months, but it is gaining traction and there's some more understanding of the impact that this can have on people. A few tips on how to recognise if one of your employees is suffering from this affective disorder, and then thinking about how you can support employees who do have this to try and get the best out of them during these winter months. And then moving on to link that to how you monitor and prevent employee sickness absence with wellbeing and mental health in general, but particularly linked to SAD. And then talk to you a little bit more about the business benefits of tracking employee absence and how that can help you as an organisation. So on to the main part then, what actually is seasonal affective disorder, also known as SAD? It's a type of depression that arises during the winter months, so generally starting around September, October, when the clocks change, through to about March. And it is a depression that can include symptoms of persistent low mood, irritability and fatigue. Now, I'm sure we all have days where we feel like this for one reason or another. You get up and it's dark and it's raining and the motorways are heavy, and everything just seems a bit gloomier in the winter. But this disorder affects people on a regular basis. This isn't once a week or once every 2 weeks. This is something that's quite persistent and can have quite a debilitating impact on an individual. And it's estimated that there are approximately 1 in 15 people in the UK who are affected by this, and this is according to the NHS research. So a bit more about SAD and what it actually is then. It is truthful that the exact cause of SAD isn't fully understood. There are a number of theories around what causes it and what the reasons for. But it is generally thought to be caused by the reduced exposure to sunlight during the autumn and winter months. And a lack of sunlight does have physical impacts on us, which then in turn have mental impacts. And the 3 that we've called out here, just to try and give you a bit more of understanding, is the production of melatonin. Now, melatonin is a hormone that actually controls our sleep and wake cycles. And people with SAD, in general, it's thought that they produce higher levels of melatonin, which makes them feel very lethargic and down, and their sleep and wake cycle patterns are disrupted during these months because of lack of sunlight. The other area is the production of serotonin, and this is another hormone that affects your mood, appetite and sleep. It's generally our feel-good brain chemical that gives us energy. But insufficient levels of sunlight during the winter months can lead to lower levels, and this is known to be linked to depression. And then the other one is around the body's internal clock. And the reason that light is so important is that it sets our rhythm that regulates the body clock. And a lack of light during the winter hours and the change in clock times, it throws off this rhythm completely and can lead to the symptoms of SAD. Now we kind of know a little bit more about what it is, and that this is an actual, it's an actual real condition that people are living with in the UK. If someone is suffering from this within your business, you will start to see an impact to their productivity, to their engagement, which ultimately has an impact on your business, especially when they're small businesses. If you have just one person in your organisation who is suffering from a mental health disorder such as SAD that is impacting their ability to perform, then that is going to impact your business overall. So how do you spot the signs that an employee may be suffering from SAD? Increasing absence is an obvious one. If you start to see that during the winter months there's a pattern of one of your employees who is increasingly absent from work, the truth is that they might not tell you that the reason they are off work is because they are feeling depressed or anxious and that they believe they have SAD, but it's looking out for those warning signs. Who has an increased absence during these months? What are the reasons for those absences? And kind of staying on top of it. Concentration problems is a really key one, and you may notice that an employee who you have who's normally focused, moving from one task to another very efficiently and effectively, suddenly isn't doing that. Maybe they're having trouble concentrating, they might be getting up and down from their desk a lot, moving from task to task and not quite completing everything. That can be a warning sign or a red flag. Lack of energy. So an employee who suddenly seems to be struggling to complete tasks that they normally will do with quite some ease. And this can be anything from taking too long to responding to an email or making simple mistakes on a more regular basis. Again, it's things to look for. Comfort eating is quite a difficult one, especially in the run up to Christmas. I think there's not one of us who doesn't indulge in some way, shape or form in eating more than we normally would do. But watch out for some changes in people. Are they comfort eating and then going through an afternoon slump? An employee who you don't normally see eating at their desk is suddenly regularly snacking, and it could be that they're taking those sugary hits or those carbohydrates to try and give them that kick or boost of energy that they don't normally feel they need. But as we all know, that quick hit of sugar can sometimes result in a slump afterwards, and it's starting to notice that within your employees. And then just generally mood changes, and this could be shown as somebody who is being quite difficult or obstructive, or just a general change in mood over the winter months. And somebody who might be normally quite bright and sunny and positive is struggling to behave like that during the winter months. Now, importantly then, it's thinking about how you can help support staff with SAD. And you may have employees who come to you and are quite open and honest that they suffer with this disorder, or it might be just offering a listening ear to someone who you are noticing is having some of these signs and symptoms, and you suspect they may be suffering from this. I think the first thing is thinking about making the most of the daylight hours. Whilst they are significantly reduced during the winter months, think about flexible working within your organisation. Could an employee start work earlier and finish earlier so they are not going home in the dark? Encourage them to make the most of the exposure to daylight hours by going for a walk at break time or lunchtime. Physical activity is something that's really important for those suffering with SAD. As with any mental health issue, the natural boost that you get from exercise, it is proven to reduce stress, improve self-esteem, and just relieve some of the depressive tendencies. So how can you encourage your staff to get away from their desk and maybe get some of that bright winter sunshine that we sometimes get? Think about when you're holding meetings, is there an area in your office that can make sure that there is natural light coming in? If an employee leaves for work in the morning in the dark, spends all day in a office that doesn't have natural light and then goes home in the dark, that can compound the problem. So is there anywhere in the office where you can hold meetings where there is a bit more natural light? Offering extended lunch breaks or potentially earlier start time or finish times so that they might want to get out more during their lunch break. Or is there any team activities that you could do that are outdoors? Another one, which is something that we have actually done in our own office, is banning staff from eating at their desks. And this is something we did when we moved to our new offices a year ago, where we really want to encourage people to move away from their desks at lunchtime, even if it's just for half an hour. And by banning people eating at their desk or eating their lunch at their desk, you're encouraging them to move away from their work, either get some sunlight or just take some time away. And even that can really help with SAD. It's also about looking at your working environment. There was a poll that was conducted recently by a company called Aspect that found that 83% of UK adults actually suggested that their workplace wasn't very pleasant. They actually used the word unpleasant. And one of the main culprits of this is lighting. So looking around your workplace, are there partitions that could be removed? Is it an open plan office? Is it more closed? Is there something that you can do to provide more natural light? Another thing that you can think about is installing the light therapy units, the SAD lamps. These lamps emit a white light which emulates the sun's spectrum of wavelengths, and this is something that people can buy to have in their own homes, but it's something that you could encourage to have in the office, and I think things like that would make a real difference. For all mental health problems, and including SAD in this, it's always recommended that you should have an employee assistance programme in place for your staff all year round. And you know, it's question yourself, do you have one of those? If you don't, would you consider one? Just got to remember that as an employee, you do have a duty of care to support the health of your employees, and healthy, engaged employees are going to be much more productive and effective employees. So it's really important to think about mental health. And for those of you who don't really know much about employee assistance programs, there's a wide variety of partners available to do this, but it's an option for staff to have access to a 24/7 telephone line with counselling, and also online tools and resource which they can use. And it's a really good way to show your employees that you care about their well-being and you care about how they are feeling. And it gives them an option to talk to somebody confidentially, because you're appreciating that sometimes conversations can be quite difficult with managers, and also recognising that managers are not trained or qualified mental health experts. Having that employee assistance programme can give a real benefit to them, and I'd seriously consider looking at one of those if you don't have one already. So a little bit more about why you should care about seasonal affective disorder. Now, while these figures don't relate to SAD in general, they relate to mental health, which is part and parcel. And it's really important just to pause and look at some of these facts. It is estimated that stress and poor mental health costs UK businesses approximately £34 billion a year through things like absence, productivity, turnover. That is a huge impact. 1 in 6 employed people in the UK are suffering with mental health issues. So if you look around your office, out of every 6 people you've got, one of those is suffering with a mental health condition that is having an impact on their day-to-day lives. It's estimated that approximately 15.8 million days of sickness absence is attributed to mental health issues. And that number could be drastically underestimated, because there's plenty of times where people use another reason for their sickness absent. 1 in 10 of recent survey respondents, and these are all facts that have come from the Minds Workplace Wellbeing Index, have rated their current mental health as poor or very poor, which means that their mental health is having a severe impact on their ability to carry out day-to-day activities, which will include work. And 26% of that 1 in 10 stated that their mental health problems were actually caused by work. 40% of the 1 in 10 said they had to take time off because of this. And only 1 in 4 employees in the survey said that they would actually openly talk to their manager about their mental health issues. There has been great progress made over the past few years, and the charities that are working on this have really raised the profile of the importance of mental health in wellbeing in the workplace, but there is still a way to go. So if you think about SAD as being part of one of these mental health issues, then it just shows the focus that you should give it. Thinking a bit about the value of employee wellbeing then, and what you may see as a business by tackling some of the wellbeing issues, including helping employees who have got seasonal adjustment disorder get through those winter months in the best possible way they can. Thinking about how you can help them. If you as an organisation show that this is important to you and something that you value, and it is more than just the numbers on the board, if you care about your employees as individuals and you want to help them be the best version of themselves, you will automatically see some of the things that are along the bottom. A reduced staff turnover. There are plenty of employees nowadays, especially when you look at the younger end of the market, those who are just graduating, they want very different things out of a workplace than older generations did. And an employer caring about their well-being is very high on that list. And you will tend to find that happy, engaged employees who feel that they are more than just a name and a job title are less likely to leave your organisation. It will automatically help reduce sickness absence if you are promoting an open culture where it is okay to talk about mental health, and you are supporting people with mental health issues actually stay in the organisation and looking at preventative measures that will reduce your sickness absence, which has an immediate impact on the bottom line. It will overall improve staff performance because people will feel more efficient, more effective if they feel more supported. And generally, it will reduce complaints and grievances, these things that can bubble away under the surface and actually turn into huge issues. If we're tackling them up front, then that will make a difference. I think it's important to say that another thing that I would really overlay with the value of wellbeing and how you can support your staff is, when you're thinking about reducing sickness absence, is really take a moment to think about your occupational health provisions. It's something that we focused on quite a lot in Moorepay recently, about how we can support businesses, especially small ones, when they are dealing with health issues, particularly complex and tricky mental health issues. And having occupational health involvement is really key in my eyes. I think the last thing to kind of call out then is to talk about data and analytics. And HR has really pivoted over the last 15 years and really moved from being quite a reactive function back in the days where we were known as personnel officers or HR officers, to really thinking about how you can integrate yourself into the business and really add value. And as with every other part of the business, data and analytics is now a central part of how you should be making your people decisions. Having data on front of you allows you to make informed decisions about your business and allows you to support the ultimate goal of the organisation. And HR data can be such an important source of information on mental health and wellbeing. A HR system can allow you access to absenteeism data at the touch of a button, allows you to do performance reviews which may pick up on issues, can analyse staff turnover, conduct exit interviews to find out how people are or why people are leaving. And all of this data together gives you a real insight and allows you to make the best decisions. It's all about keeping records. You know, absenteeism data is something that in the past could be quite lax. Somebody has a day off, they phone their manager might make a quick note of it somewhere. But if that's not recorded in a system, that may get forgotten and you may miss the opportunity to pull those patterns together of somebody who is absent quite regularly. And I think the whole thing together just makes for a much more powerful set of information that you can follow through on.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll also call out at this point that we have got a live product demo of our absence management software taking place next Thursday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon with my colleague Daniel Cookson. So when I send over the slides and recording, I'll include a URL to that demo if you do want to join and find out a bit more about how exactly the software works and the kind of data that is available. Now, in terms of how we can support you in relation to seasonal affective disorder, there are a number of ways that Michelle will run through now.
Yeah, so just to talk a little bit more about the HR services team, obviously, that, as Hannah said before, there are customers on the call, but there's also prospects potentially as well. So just like to call out how we can support or even give it insight to customers. The service that we provide from a HR point of view is around advice and consultancy, and this is either over the phone or face-to-face, where we can support business owners with those tricky and complex areas of law. We also make sure that documentation and policies are all up to date and legally compliant, and we can overlay this with manager training. One of our consultants recently worked with the Mind charity and has produced a mental health wellbeing support for managers, helping managers understand how they can support their employees with mental health. And this has been a really popular course that we've launched. I think it's an area that people, especially small businesses, can feel a bit lost in. There's so much information out there, but how do you know where to start? And it's that kind of value that we can add in supporting managers in dealing with these issues. We aim to do all the support up front so that there is a minimal chance of things going wrong but inevitably tribunals do happen, and we can follow right through to tribunal support with the trained qualified advocates that we have in our organisation. Alongside this, though, are more generic areas of employee wellbeing and engagement, and we can offer employee benefits, access to an employee assistance programme, as well as partnerships with occupational health. And then from a software point of view, the HR software that we have has areas such as performance reviews, absence management modules, has best practice templates and guidance, and also allows you access to advanced reporting and analytics. And that whole suite together can really help you focus on doing what you need to do, which is run your business, but with the safe knowledge that you've got expertise supporting you in the background.
Brilliant, thank you, Michelle. We will now move on to the questions, so please continue to drop any questions that you may have into the question box and we will run through them. So the first question that we've received is, how can I go about raising awareness of seasonal affective disorder in my workplace?
I think it's really important to think about proactively talking about mental health, which also covers seasonal affective disorder, given it's quite topical with the clock change. And this could be something that you work on internally, it could be something informal, it could be something formal, but it's very key to start talking about it to employees and knowing that it is okay for them to come forward. This could be a campaign that you run in the office, whether you're sending out email comms about tips and hints for employees, you ask for their input about what we could do in the office to make things easier. You have workshops at lunch. There are businesses who do things like exercise in the afternoon. I just think it's really important to start talking about it and start promoting the fact that it is important to you, and get it as a subject that people aren't afraid to talk about. It's not going to change overnight, but it is great to pick a relevant topic or something that is relevant or seasonal at the moment, and SAD is a great way to start talking about mental health in general and improving it.
Brilliant, thank you, Michelle. And we've also had a question about occupational health. I know that you mentioned it briefly, but this is something that Moorepay offers, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So specifically around occupational health, in the last 12 months, we at Moorepay have partnered with an occupational health company who called Honeydew Health, and this has allowed us to really add value to the service that we offer, particularly around complex mental health issues. So for our customers who have the HR service, our advisors who are dealing with medical issues or mental health issues with a particular customer will now offer occupational health as a service. We take all the information and we liaise directly with Honeydew, so there's nothing for the customers to do or to worry about. We take control of that, even down to the right questions that we need to ask the occupational health advisor. We put it into triage with Honeydew, and then they recommend the type of appointment that is needed, whether it's a face-to-face position or just a telephone consultation with an occupational health advisor. They then produce a comprehensive report which goes back to our team and to the customer and allows them to really collaborate and agree on the best way forward. But it is worth noting that not only does this help us proactively help employees who have mental health issues, it's also great for further down the line. If the worst happened and we did end up in a tribunal to do with medical capability, a tribunal would expect an employer to have gone down the occupational health route where possible, and this just really adds another layer of value to our service.
Great, thank you, Michelle. We've also had a question about website recommendations with further information on SAD. I know that the Mind website has lots of resources around seasonal affective disorder, and the NHS website also has information around seasonal affective disorder and the difference between that and winter blues.
Yeah, I think they're probably the two main ones that I would call out. We've had quite a bit of contact with Mind, and I think they have a real wealth of information on their website, and they have lots of portals. Through their portal, they have lots of free resources and tools that you can download, and also the NHS as well. They're probably the two that I would call out. And I'd also direct you to the Moorepay website, where we have a blog that we have just released, which specifically covers SAD, which covers some of the information that we've talked about today, but goes into a bit more detail. And it might be that you just want to start sharing some of that information on your comms channels with your employees, and that would be a key to start talking about it.
Great, thank you. We will just move on to a few more resources that you can access before closing off the webinar. So there's a whole host of additional content on the Moorepay website, and that includes our bi-monthly employment law and HR legislation guide, which is located in the resources section of our website. And as part of this has a key trends section where we often cover things like mental health and other issues. So I would recommend that you sign up to receive that or download it directly from the website. If you follow us on any of our social channels, we publish all our new blogs and guides on there as well, so you'll see them flash up on your news feed. As mentioned, I will send the webinar recording and slides out to you this afternoon, and if you have any questions, then please feel free to get in touch with us. That's no problem at all. I'll close the webinar off now. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to Michelle for hosting the webinar today, and I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you.